Tell us what you're seeing right now from the visuals that are coming out of Gaza right now with Israeli tanks in. Is the day of the tank over? Are main battle tanks passé?
A large amount of people and during the course of history has tried to write obituaries of main battle tanks. But see, what we are looking here, Sandeep, is not a classical conflict. It's a very peculiar and it's a very unique conflict. Now let's go to the entire combat zone, so to say. You're looking at an area of 40 kilometers in length by 7 to 8 kilometers in width. That's the kind of area you're looking at. Densely populated with 2 million people. Just look at the amount of population there, just look at the construction, look at the roads, the entire network and everything, so on and so forth. Now the problem is this conflict is also not between two conventional powers. It's a ultra hybrid conflict where essentially you're looking at an extreme asymmetric warfare. Now coming to this asymmetry is the problem of going into the urban areas and fighting in urban terrain, or as they call it, fighting in built up areas. Now look at the challenges of the tunnels which are underground. Look at the challenges of identification of friend and foe. Look at the issues of going close down in tanks, whether it is a Merkava or it's a Namir or it is a M113.
It's three-dimensional warfare.
It's three-dimensional at all times.
Right.
So just look at the situational awareness, the positional awareness, the issues of debris, which nobody seems to be looking at it. And when even a lot of people would say that I would send the earth-moving equipment or armored dozers,
armored bulldozers
as they call it. But the whole idea is, whatever assets you send in the conflict zone have to be covered by observation and fire.
So you have three dimensions, which is air, surface of course, and in Gaza the subterranean
the tunnels.
Yes.
So that makes it very complicated.
Right.
However, when you look at the entire methodology of the Israelis, you have to go back into history when the Merkava was created. It was Merkava, by the way, as per the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, is called the Chariot of God. That's what it means. So the design was created by Major General Israel Tal, as you are aware, and it has an engine in front, unlike the other tanks.
Crew. That's right.
To protect it further.
And the interesting part about this tank is that over the last 40 years, it's only seen unconventional warfare. It's never been deployed in actual conventional war.
You're spot on. So what happens with that is that since it has always been deployed like that, the methodology of operation of this is also like that. So when you look at an armored fighting vehicle and you have that famous troika of firepower, mobility and protection. Protection in this case obviously assumes a large amount of significance. And then of course you have the active protection system like the trophy. Oh yes, a couple of tanks, as we see, also have those cope cages.
Cope cages. We don't have it on these tanks, but there are some of those with that little umbrella over the thing. How effective are cope cages, you think?
The jury is out on that, but a large amount of people do say that they are pretty ineffective against, I mean, whether it is a cornet or whether it is a javelin. Obviously the javelin is not here in this conflict. But for smaller drones, they could be effective, but my sense tells me that anything which is retrofitted onto a tank may not be very effective against very well-made and very well-structured conflict weapons.
So how would it fare against, say, a drone carrying an RPG-7 warhead? That's one of the biggest innovations to come out of the Russia-Ukraine war. Would a cope cage, for instance, on a Merkava protect it from one of those air-dropped RPG warheads?
I won't be very positive about it, but having said that, yes, it would give you some incidental protection for sure, as my sense tells me, but overall I don't think it will be very, very helpful. Actually, the concept of cope cages is a very old concept. If you recall, in the early part of 2022, when the Russians moved into Ukraine, that's the first time you saw the cope cages coming onto the T-72B ones. So I don't know, the jury's out on that. Let's see how it functions.
But I remember visiting you in your formation regiment many years back, and you took me through the tanks, the Indian Army's tanks with the armor protection and reactive armor. Tell me what would be going on in the minds of the armored regiment officers there inside Gaza. I mean, apart from the three-dimensional war, fear of being, hit from all directions. What are the other challenges? One you mentioned was the debris in the streets. What other challenges could they be?
The other challenges could be the identification of friend and foe.
Right.
That's very difficult. The third challenge could be sniping.
Ah.
Then no matter how capable or advanced you are in terms of, advanced electro-optronics inside the turret or in the fighting compartment, at the end of the day, there is a problem of positional as well as situational awareness.
Right.
Then, of course, you have the issues of landmines.
Right.
And then you have the issues of tunnels. And then, of course, you have the issues of incidental protection of tanks. And then you have the blind corners. It's a maze, actually. So that is why, if you look at even the historical lessons of the Second World War, and if you recall, these tanks moving along into the, the built-up areas, they were always dovetailed with infantry.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I don't think such kind of conflict can be fought alone. It is not a it's not a one equipment game or it's a one arm game. It has to be a combined game. And then, of course, you yourself mentioned that it's a constant three-dimensional warfare. So that makes it even more. It's a slugfest, actually.